Man, has it been a while. I mean, I can't remember the last video. The last video I did was the Coyotes game. The last game of the season we lost. And I was recording that the same night that the Flames game was going on. So I was already backed up with a bunch of stuff. And lo and behold, that's what happens when finals week goes down. The same week that the last two games of the season for the Wild happen and the NHL draft. Plus, I got tickets to the Coyotes game when they beat Nashville by going down 4-0 and then coming all the way back to win it to cause Nashville to be the final wild card in the series. It's a great way to close out that building in Glendale. So it was a fun game, but it's been a while since I've actually been able to cover the Wild. It feels good to be back. It feels good to be in the playoffs, to have home ice, and this is what we've been waiting for. Okay, we've known that the Blues have been our opponent for a while now. We were like the first confirmed series out of everybody. This was written on the wall from the start. So we're almost there. Tomorrow is game 1 in Minnesota. And I can't wait for it, honestly, because this series is probably the most even series out of all of them, considering it is two top teams that are both high-powered on offense, both incredibly good, and both could possibly contend for a Stanley Cup. This is the series that many people have going to 7 games, whether it be the Blues winning or the Wild winning. Most people don't have this ending in 4 or 5 games. No, it's 6 or 7. And if it's 6, then some team took advantage of something. Because that's why a lot of people were heavily campaigning, well, why don't they go back to the 1 through 8 option, whereas the top 8 teams get seeded that way? Because if that were the case, we would have a home series versus the Kings, and the Blues would have a home series versus the Oilers. So many people are like, well, why doesn't it happen that way? It's the way it goes now. So we get a very tough matchup in round 1 against the St. Louis Blues. And they've had our number the entire year. They've swept the season series against us. Sure, the last 2 games we played against them were in overtime, and they won those 2 in overtime. But the Winter Classic, they won that 6-4, and I believe they won the game. There was a game earlier in the series where it wasn't in overtime, but it was all Blues. It was just complete domination by them. But again, that was before the trade deadline when that happened. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting for this series. And the main question coming into this, or one of the questions coming into this, was how is Marcus Foligno going to be doing? Because I know I didn't see the game, but I saw the rampage on social media and Twitter. Wild fans going after Avs fans coming back after Wild fans, all after the hit that Curtis McDermott or the knee that Curtis McDermott did on Marcus Foligno. I've looked at all the angles I can. I've slowed it down to see who is in the wrong here, if anybody. I mean, I came to the conclusion that I don't think anybody's in the wrong. And I know, Wild fans, you're going to be pissed off at that, but I've looked at it multiple times, and it comes down to this. Foligno is making a play along the wall. He is trying to chip the puck past McDermott. McDermott is not stopping the puck, and he's not trying to, use his stick to get back there. Otherwise, he would have just tried to use his stick to poke it back in. He's trying to hit Marcus Foligno. He's not trying to knee him, but he's trying to hit him. That's why his base is wide, and that's why his knee is already out. Because many Avs fans are like, well, he didn't stick the knee out. Yeah, because it was already out. It's a wide base, and he's trying to take the shoulder on Foligno. Foligno is trying to dodge the hit at the same time. So, as Buchnevich is coming, let's see if I can get this to the camera angle. Buchnevich is coming this way. Foligno is trying to cut across the grain and try and get past McDermott this way, cutting across his body. They end up catching each other on the knee. Foligno goes down, and Wild fans are pissed. They did call a 5-minute kneeing penalty on McDermott, so justice was served, and they fined him as well. But I've looked at it multiple times. It's a tough play that happens. And I know Dean Evison was furious. I know Billy Guerin was furious. Everybody was furious about it because it's an Avs team that already had their playoff fate locked up. They're already the 1 seed. They know that for a fact. So they're not playing a good chunk of their good players. And McDermott just does that. I mean, The knee is unintentional, but to go for a hit like that in the last game, it's basically just the Avs hate the Wild, and that's pretty much it. Because that wasn't the only bad play that happened. Logan O'Connor also hit Dmitry Kulikov straight into the boards. Avs fans can agree with us there. That was a dumb play. Okay, Logan O'Connor was childish in the way that happened. Now McDermott also, don't try and make that hit in game 82. I don't know if he's trying to get back into the lineup because they're not going to use McDermott unless somebody goes down. It sucks. It's a tough play, but Foligno said he'll play through it. I don't know how good of an idea that is. I'm pretty sure he's just doing it just because it's the playoffs. I think that's what he said, actually. So it's good to have him back, but we just got to make sure that, he's as good as can be, because if we lose him in this series, that could be costly. That could be costly for Minnesota. And I'm looking at a series preview from the Athletic right now, just trying to see who gets the edge and why. Just seeing what the possibility is. They had a model that apparently gave a 75% chance to Minnesota to win the series, but even in the article they say, this model is not right. This series is incredibly close. And from what I was looking through in this article, you can check it out if you just look up playoff series preview, Blues versus Wild, and you click on the Athletic link. You got it there. Article is from Domlist. Oh, geez, I cannot pronounce that. Lusczyn. Leshuzin? Don Leshuzin, I think, and Shayna Goldman. Those two wrote it, and it's a good article if you look at it, because it explains both possibilities of how this series can go. And so what they said, or at least trying to sum up what they said, the Wild essentially have the advantage here as far as star power goes and defense. Apparently Minnesota, obviously, with Kuroko, Kaprizov, and Kevin Fiala, they said that the Blues don't really have a star power player like that. And I thought, that's crazy. They have Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko. But then you think about it as well. Their first line is right here. It's Pavel Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, who has had a stellar rookie year for them, and Vladimir Tarasenko, who's back again. Buchnevich is very good, coming over from the Rangers. He's actually supposedly their best player, according to whatever stat GSVA is. I'm not an advanced stat nerd, so I don't know what GSVA is. Apparently he's got a 3.1 in it. I wish I had like a key to break all this stuff down, but so the top line is Buchnevich, Thomas, and Tarasenko. Those are still three good players. Maybe they're not Kuroko, Kaprizov, or Kevin Fiala, but they're still really good. Okay? Their second line for the Blues is Brandon Saad, Ryan O'Reilly, and David Perron. Three guys who have been through the playoffs before and won cups, because Saad won it with Chicago back in the day, and then Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron were there when the Blues won it. So that's playoff experience that they have on the second line. The third line for them is Ivan Barbashev, Braden Shen, Jordan Kyrou. Barbashev and Shen are good depth pieces for the Blues. Kyrou is also a rookie that breaks out. He's really fast because he won fastest skater at the skills competition in Vegas. But apparently he's been trending in the wrong direction because defensively he's kind of a liability. So they're giving him bottom 6 minutes, which is not good. Well, good for us, not for them. And then their fourth line is Logan Brown, Tyler Bozak, and Klim Kostin. I only know Tyler Bozak out of those three, and frankly, it's similar to our fourth line where it's Tyson Jost, Connor Dewar, and Nick Delorier. Although I know my guys, and I feel like they'll be fine. And they're okay. So they're putting Connor Dewar in there. That's fine. I like Dewar. But for the top three lines we have the Grief line. We have Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Hartman. That's the top line. And then we have the Fiala, Goudreau, Boldy line. That's three dominant lines right there, and a fourth line that just comes in to put in that extra effort. I feel comfortable as far as forwards go. I think we are pretty good as far as forwards go. So, and offensively, both teams are very high power. Okay? According to the season ranks, Minnesota ranked second in goals per game with 3.22. The Blues ranked fifth with 3 goals per game on average. Shooting percentage was 1-2 in favor of St. Louis. And offensively, both these teams are pretty good. Defensively is where it starts to, break off for both these teams. Specifically, St. Louis, because they don't have anything in the top 10. They don't have any one of these stats. No Corsi, no XG, no goals against per game, and no save percentage that is in the top 10 in the NHL. Minnesota has 3 of those stats in the top 10, and then their XG, whatever that means, is second in the league. So defensively, according to the stats that The Athletic has, they say that St. Louis is somewhat of a liability on defense. Not too much that it completely destroys them, but in a series where you're facing another high-powered offensive opponent, it could prove costly. But here's where they give the advantage to the Blues. And it's an advantage that they definitely have. Special teams. I've talked throughout multiple of my videos how terrible the Wild special teams have been. And just seeing their power play score or their penalty kill something is big. It's huge. Because they are one of the worst in the league. Or they're trending towards that direction. They had been for a while. Because the Wild are arguably the best 5-on-5 team in the NHL. Penalties and power plays are what screws us over. And I'm not sure why the power plays screw us over. That should give us an advantage, but we can't seem to figure that out. But power plays and penalty kills. Special teams is where St. Louis has a massive advantage. And they also somewhat gave it a little bit to the goaltenders because they said Fleury was basically They assumed that Fleury, I don't know if he would be the starter. I think they said Talbot would be the starter, but they said Talbot's stats are not as good as Fleury's. And I think that's because they're expecting Fleury to go back up to that Vezina caliber level. Talbot's still reliable in net, in my opinion. I think the Athletic is being a little too hard on him. But we have 2 solid goaltenders, and they have Ville Husso, who is incredible, but he hasn't had any playoff experience, and Jordan Binnington, if they really need somebody to fall back on. Now, Binnington is kind of hit the dumps, so I don't think they're going to put him in. But it's Ville Husso that's probably going to be the guy we face. And apparently, when I was looking around during the final game of the season for most teams, that was on April 29th, the Blues played Vegas. And I know because we needed either Vegas to beat St. Louis or us to win or get a point. Turns out both those things happened. Vegas beat St. Louis 7-4 in a game that St. Louis needed if they really wanted home ice. They didn't sit anybody out either, I don't think. St. Louis played all their guys, and they lost 7-4 to Vegas, a team that was already out of the playoffs. So, and what they said in that, or from looking through that game and what I saw, apparently going high on Ville Husso is the way to get him because he is not good above his shoulders. I don't know why. He just can't seem to stop anything. Down low, pretty good. But anything above his shoulders, past his head, can't seem to get any saves. So if Wild shooters are shooting, hopefully they're aiming high so they can get it right past his ear and into the back of the net. But they also said because Ville Husso is having a great year, that might be series stealing worthy. Wild fans don't like to remember, but Jake Allen did that when the Blues stole the series against the Wild. It was Jake Allen that completely dominated that series and allowed St. Louis to win. And where they said defense plays a big factor is that Minnesota, according to advanced stats, has a much better defense than St. Louis. Well, not much better, but there's still a pretty big gap. So the top 2 defenders for St. Louis are Justin Falk and Colton Parayko. Two pretty good guys. Colton Parayko won the cup with them, and I think Justin Falk did too. But it's basically these 2 that are kind of their big defensemen to look out for. And I'm quoting this directly from the article here. The problem is his partner. This is in response to Parayko, and they're looking for his defensive partner. It says, quote, "The problem is his partner, Marco Scandella, assuming he's back in the lineup after a late season injury, tends to concede quality chances against when he's targeted on entries." And that's awfully nice for Marco, considering it's his former team. It's been a while since he played for us, but hey. And it goes on to continue. They say, quote, "The Blues just haven't found a match for their number 1, which seems to have a negative influence on his on-ice results," meaning Parayko. Quote, "It's even more troubling when he's tasked with playing top competition. In their 560-plus 5-on-5 minutes together this season, Scandella and Parayko broke even in actual goal share, but were heavily outchanced. That's the pair that's likely going to see a lot of Kaprizov in this matchup." And it says, so far in the season series, Parayko has been outshot and outscored by the Wild with the electric winger on the ice. and there's a legitimate chance that's a deciding factor over the next couple of weeks. So that's where they essentially give the advantage to Minnesota. They also say Blues defenders are also decisively not as good as Minnesota's. Matt Dumba, Alex Goligoski, Dmitry Kulikov, and newcomer Jacob Middleton are a much stronger group than Torrey Krug, Nick Leddy, Scandella, and Robert Bortuzzo. Minnesota's options can all collectively defend better. Krug and Leddy are especially porous and have offensive puck-moving upside in Dumba and Goligoski. From the bottom up, the Wild have three very strong pairs with players who can dictate the run of play, while players like Scandella and Bortuzzo are arguably detrimental to the Blues' bottom line. I think it's a little tough on St. Louis, considering, again, they have won all 4 games against us. So clearly those guys have done something right when we've played against them. But yeah, they're saying the pairings are going to be Jacob Middleton, Jared Spurgeon as our top D pair, Jonas Brodin and Matt Dumba as our second, and it's good to see those guys actually get back together, and then Alex Goligoski and Dmitry Kulikov. So John Merrill is a pretty good scratch, honestly, and it definitely helps for having defensive depth in that case. Because I'm still fine with John Merrill in there, and I know Wild fans don't really want Jordy Ben in there, but he's in this case the second scratch, so we're fine. And yeah, Marco Scandella, Colton Parayko for the Blues as their top pair. Second pair is Torrey Krug and Justin Falk. Third pair, Nick Leddy, Robert Bortuzzo. And then the goalies, they think Marc-Andre Fleury is going to start this series, and Ville Husso is going to start for St. Louis. I think it'll probably be Cam Talbot that starts this series. I don't think they're going to start Fleury. I'd be fine with either goalie, frankly, in my opinion, but I think it's fine for either side. So this series is, again, going to come down to the wire. And I'm going to go to the bottom line here because they sum it up perfectly. So this is from, as soon as I quote them, Dom Luszczyszyn. I'll spell out his name again. Dom, Luszczyszyn, and Shayna Goldman. Those two made this article, and it's really good, honestly. And here's their bottom line. Quote, "There's a good reason to think that either team can advance here, even if the model isn't so keen on the Blues." And again, that model was 75-25 in favor of the Wild, and they said, yeah, it's much closer than that. It's not 75-25. It is much closer. So they continue. For the Wild, it's star power and defensive depth that had the potential to overwhelm the Blues. High-end talent can carry a team through a series, and the Wild have a serious edge there, thanks mostly to two dynamic game breakers, Kaprizov and Fiala. They're the more dominant team at 5-on-5 and should control the run of play in the series. But the Blues are no minnow. They have a bevy of offensive weapons that can make any goaltender quiver and have a massive advantage on special teams that could easily tip the scales. Husso, if he can keep up what he's done this season, has series-stealing potential too. The model says the series isn't close, but the model has also been wrong about the Blues all year. The Wild are one of the best teams in the league and a worthy favorite in this one, but this is far from a cakewalk. The Blues will be an extremely difficult out. And I think they sum it up perfectly there. In my opinion, what do I have this series coming down to? I believe it goes 6 or 7 games, but I think the Wild can pull it out. I think they can find a way to shut down the Blues offensively, considering we'll have everybody healthy now. We have 3 dominant lines going at it. We have, in my opinion, more depth than they do. They still have a bunch of offensive weapons. That's not to be understated. They can still win this series in 6 or 7 games. This isn't going to be a 4 or 5 game series. This is going to be probably the most exciting series in the first round. So, as long as Minnesota keeps themselves out of the box and manages to shut down the Blues on 5-on-5 and take advantage of their weak defense, the Wild will win this series. And I think it is going to be, I'm going to say 7 games. I think Minnesota wins it in 7 games. We took Vegas to 7 last year, but this team is much different. This team is much better built, frankly. So I think this series will go to 7 games. I think we'll beat the Blues. And I honestly can't wait to watch this because this is going to be a fun series. This is going to jack up my heart rate for about this whole month. This whole month of May, my heart rate's going to be higher than normal. So We'll see if I slip into cardiac arrest, but hopefully I don't. Hopefully the Wild can win this series pretty easily. I think they can, but it's not an easy competition. It's not a cakewalk in the Blues. This is probably the toughest opponent, one of the toughest opponents we're going to face, because if we win this round, we will probably face the Avs. Yikes. We got our work cut out for us, but I think we can do it. So I'll end on that note. Thank you for watching. Click like if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to see more of the previous videos. I can't wait. It's playoff time. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.